I would just like to reassure you that I did wash my hands before filming this video.
Hi everyone, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel. The puffy Tudor-esque vibe sleeves are still here. I thought I would do my own comfort reads video because I've seen a lot of these, like books that will make you smile, books to read in isolation, and I thought, why not I do one that wasn't grammatically correct, but we're going to roll with it. The first book I would like to tell you about is one that I just read on Audible and Scribd, whatever. I listened to it through audiobook, you know what I mean? Wow, this is going to be a scatty video. That's okay. I'm here for entertainment as well, obviously, as well as book recommendations. So the first book is Pages & Co. Tilly and the Book Wanderers by Anna James. I'm sure lots of people have heard of this book. It's a middle grade series, and this is the first book in the series. It is about Tilly, who lives with her grandparents who have this amazing bookshop. And I think any book that has like a bookshop setting is fantastic immediately. And it is kind of an adventure story, like mystery, of her uncovering with her friend Oscar the mystery of how her mother disappeared and where she went to. But it's all tied into the idea of book wandering being that characters can appear from books, or you can go into the books with the characters, and it's just fantastic. So the two characters that are focused on for Tilly are Alice in Wonderland and Anne of Green Gables. And it's funny, I haven't actually read Anne of Green Gables, which is crazy. I got a beautiful edition for my nana years ago when I was a kid, and I just thought, I'll never read it, and got rid of it, and now I will never forgive myself. It's probably a really good comfort read as well. Anyway, it's really clever how she characterised them, especially in the modern setting at the bookshop, and then also when Tilly goes into the books with them. It was just a really wonderful book if you are a reader and you are familiar with some classics and that kind of thing, and the other characters that pop up in the bookshop, you can kind of guess who they are. And it was just such a delight. Even though I'm an adult, I fully endorse reading children's books, so check that one out if you're interested. And then, speaking of children's books, I have The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. Obviously this is Mary Lennox, who is in India. Parents die, very sad. Comes to England, Misselthwaite Manor, is neglected, but then finds solace in the garden, and then finds out there's a secret garden. And then, well, I'm sure you can guess, she finds it. Big surprise. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Everyone knows the story of the Secret Garden, and it's just a great transformation story. And I think a lot of these books actually probably have some element of nature in them, and I think that, the idea of there's still beauty to be found in the world, and people can find solace in gardens and the outside and flowers, and that is definitely, during these times where we have no control, something to be happy about. So I'm about halfway through this, so I'm sure I'll finish this soon, but it's just a wonderful book, and if you haven't read it, just read it and watch the 90s film, because I love that film and I always feel sad when it's over. And then actually, also there is a new film coming out, so this is a good time to read this book, or reread it. Recommend. And then the other children's book I want to talk about is The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame, which is one of my favourite books. Sorry, I need to talk slower, I'm very excited. One of my favourite books of all time. And I think because the characters even are animals, it's extra charming, and it's just got some lovely poetry and poetic descriptions of the river. It's very idyllic in the setting, and again very much embedded in nature, and just there are so many entertaining chapters and scenes and characters. It's brilliantly paced, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful story. And my sister only recently read it for the first time as an adult, so again, you're never too old for children's books, okay? And what have we got next in the pile? Not looking. Surprise. Oh, The 13th Tale. Yes, this is good, by Diane Setterfield. This is a book that I discovered through Katie from Books and Things because she did a read along of it. It has an excellent twist, because this is a nice bookish murder mystery story. Again, set partly in a bookshop. So Margaret Lee is the protagonist. Her father owns a bookshop, and she is contacted. That sounded weird. Contacted, there we go, by Vida Winter, who in the novel is a famous and successful author, to write her biography. So she has to research a manor house that mysteriously burnt down, and how Vida is connected to the manor house and the twins that lived there before. So there's a lot about twins in here, and then as well as that, there's also her trying to find out secrets from her own family that her parents are hiding from her. And it was just really well paced, even though it looks quite long. I promise it's just such a quick read, and the way it talks about the bookshop and the goes through like the authors that are on the shelves. It's just really wonderful. Again, like a great book for readers. So that sounds odd, but you know what I mean. So yeah, that's a really accessible and easygoing mystery as well. It's not grisly or gory or anything like that. So there's that one. And then, what's this? Oh yes, this is non-fiction. At the Pond, Swimming at the Hampstead Ladies' Pond, which is by 12 different authors, women's authors, who actually, I hadn't heard of any of these, but it's set through the seasons. I think it begins in autumn. Am I right? Let's find out. No, it begins in winter. Completely wrong. And it has different essays on the ladies' pond, but it's about so much more than that. So some of them focus solely on the setting of the ladies' pond and talk about Keats, who lived around there, and one of them was a lifeguard, and they talk about like the nature and the surroundings of the pond and the kind of community and like sisterhood that is formed there with the women that swim, especially in winter. I think winter was my favourite season to read about. Some of them take it further. One of them talks about being trans and the difficulty with gendered bodies of water, or just gendered, like separated areas of, you know, having the women's pool and the men's pool. And one of them talks about different bodies of water that she swam in all over the world, and kind of comes back to the pond. So it's not always at the sole focus, but it's the anchor of all these stories, and it's just again really calming. And oh, that cover, I love it, and just definitely one way of finding new authors. I definitely want to look up some more of their work, because all of these were so eloquent, and maybe you want to read like longer pieces of writing by them. So I would highly recommend this. This is one of my favourite books from this year, and I think will probably, even at the end of the year, be one of my favourite books of the year. So, you know, go read it. Yay! And then I think this is another non-fiction book. So this is Phatfulness, 10 Reasons We're Wrong About the World and Why Things Are Better Than You Think, by Hans Rosling. This is a really good book if you are anxious and made anxious by the media and the news and that kind of thing. It looks at statistics and data a lot, and it actually has a load of graphs, and this is a really bad example, but let me find a better example for you. And there you go. Stuff like that. So at the beginning of the book, it asks you questions like, how many people do you think are living in poverty? And it gives you 3 different options. And it's interesting how I would always pick a higher number than it actually was, because of the way things are reported. It makes you look at things in a really negative perspective, and this is really good at rationalising things and talking about how, while these problems are still significant, obviously, and important to talk about and to solve, things are better and the world is in a better place than it ever has been. And it's just very like reassuring, and even though at first I always felt frustrated because I was just so used to thinking the worst, it's quite hard to like change that mindset, and it makes you realise how much the media can do that. So this is a hopeful book, and I loved it, and I definitely want to read it again soon. I would highly recommend this if you are being an anxious Annie, as they say. Maybe they don't say, that's a weird phrase. Then a book that is, again, very good to read soon. It's called Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnhem. Look at that cover. Does it have my 10 papers? I don't remember. No, it doesn't. Boring. Never mind. This is a book about 4 women who decide from rainy grey England to up sticks and go and rent a kind of castle villa in Italy, because why not, for the month of April. And they're all very different, but it's how they come together and sort of win each other round, and the grumpy ones become mellowed, and it's just lovely. And while the ending is a little bit rushed, it's again a really gentle read, and it will make you want to run away and like leave all your responsibilities behind and go to Italy, I warn you, which is not great because we can't go to Italy right now. But ignoring that, it makes you want to just go outside and find some garden and just like bask in the sun and like feel happy. It's just really heartwarming, and if you like stories about women, then that sounds odd, you know what I mean, then yes, read this. This is actually a book that was recommended by Mel from, is it Mel's Bookish Adventures? That's so bad I can't remember her name properly. But her, she put this on her 5 books refill your hope bucket video a while ago. I will link that below. And I read it, and it definitely made me, feel good about the world and people. And it's just nice to remember, like, people can change for the better, and things can change for the better, and you'll be okay. So it's like a refreshing book. And then, sorry, it's a lot of, and then, this is The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse by Charlie Maxey, who knows. But this was Waterstone's Book of the Year. It was a book that made me cry. I was just in bits reading this. It's so beautiful. It is illustrated by him as well. And let me find my favourite illustration ever. Where is it? Bear with. But it is about... Aha! There we go. There is a mole who has a penchant for cake. And he's a fat mole post-eating cake. And I think it's amazing. But it is about a boy who meets a mole right at the beginning, and then meets a fox, and meets a horse. So you might think that sounds very boring, but it definitely gives me Winnie the Pooh-esque vibes. And it's really just about friendship and about them kind of going on a journey together and they just give each other like really nice advice, and it's very much like almost a self-care book, honestly. There's a lot of things like, what would you like to be when you grow up, like kind, and just things like that, said the boy. And it's just really just beautifully illustrated. And it's a quick read, but again, wonderful for all ages. My whole family read this individually at Christmas before I even got to it, so it's definitely a winner for all the generations. But it's just, I keep saying these words, but it is the most comforting, it is the most heartwarming book, and it is one of those books where it's like, everything's gonna be okay, and like humanity is good at the centre, and I'm a good person, really. Like if you feel really bad about yourself, especially if you have mental health issues, and I know that at this time that can really be spiralling, this is the book to read for you. Okay. Then, there's that part done. Then we have classics. So we have Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, because I think, in my humble opinion, having read all of them now, the book just moved. That was weird. Whoa! I wish this was going to fall on top of me. Anyway, this is, I think, in my opinion, this is the most comforting of the stories. Maybe because I was so familiar with this one over all the other Austen novels when I came to it. So I didn't actually read this until I was 16, but I grew up watching Colin Firth, Be Still My Beating Heart, coming out of that lake. So yeah, I grew up, anyway, sorry, I lost you there for a moment. I grew up watching that, so I think when you are really familiar with the story, even if you haven't read it much, or even if you haven't read it at all, then it is again like comforting because it's familiar and you don't have to take in new information, really. So this is a wonderful book to read in that sense, and it's just got such a strong heroine, and like, who doesn't love a bit of Mr. Darcy? You know what I mean? And then a book that is great to read a day, actually, is Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day by Winifred Watson, which is a Persephone classic in this edition. Isn't it gorgeous? And it's kind of an almost fairy tale Cinderella-esque story. So Miss Pettigrew is a kind of down and out unemployed governess, and the agency that she signed up to sends her to work for a nightclub singer, the glamorous Miss Fosse, and is it Fosse or Fosse? I don't know. Fosse! We're going to go with that now. I like that pronunciation. I feel like jazz hands. So she has to go and work for the nightclub singer, Miss Fosse, instead of, a family with children and stuff, and gets swept up in this glamorous world. And there's this kind of whirlwind story where she's trying to manage and deal with all the different men who are trying to get at Miss Fosse, and finds love herself, and it's just, it's crazy, and it happens just over 24 hours, and each chapter is a section of time, so it's like 9:51 to 11:15 and stuff like that, but it's just a joy. And it also has illustration, which is so lovely, and it was written in the late 30s, so it's just very elegant and classy, and I loved it. And it's also a film, which is very different, but this is a cracking read, especially, I think, if you haven't read Persephone Classics, this is the first one I read by them, and it's a great place to start. So yes, there's that. And then we have another kind of sunny Italian one, A Room with a View by E.M. Forster, who I used to think was Ian Forster. E.M. sounds better. What does that stand for? What is the E and the M? Edward Morgan. Oh, Morgan. maybe Ian is better. Anyway, this is a book that starts in Italy, and Lucy Honeychurch, which is a fantastic name, is the heroine, protagonist of this story. So in Italy, she's swept up with the art and the romanticism of it, and the setting and the architecture, and George Emerson. And then she goes home to England and is like, oh, well, things are boring here and like everything's a bit moral. But then there's this guy called Cecil and he quite likes her. So she's caught between these two men who are very different. So you have the exciting George, who's more forward and passionate, and then you have Cecil, who's restrained in English. And it's just a great, funny love triangle, and I adored this book. I thought it was really funny. It has a great vicar, Mr. Beebe, who I really laughed out loud at points. There's a great film of it as well. Film adaptation is great. It's got a really young and beautiful Helena Bonham Carter, and I think it was like late 80s or something. It's great. There's a funny skinny dipping scene which is worth watching it for alone, to be honest. So that is just brilliant and just beautiful. Read it. Again, makes you want to go to Italy. I need to go to Italy. Anyway, then a book that is really flippin' obvious, well, a series of books, is Harry Potter. This is heavier than I remembered it being. But I think the illustrated editions particularly are even more escapist. I've only got the first two. I've read this one. I haven't read the second one, illustrated editions, yet, but I'm scared because Aragog is in that one, and I flippin' hate spiders. And I got my sister to look through it for me, and she told me, yeah, there is quite a horrible illustration. So I just want to get to that chapter. I'm going to be so cautious turning the page. I'm going to just be like, is it safe to look? But these are just really beautiful, and of course I opened it on not a very interesting page. Let me, look at this. Woo! Stunning. So I know they've got the first 4 out, but you know, the 5th one's the longest, so good luck to Chris Riddle, Rydell, whatever. No, in Jim Kay. Why did I think it was Chris? I don't know nothing. But Jim Kay, good luck to him. So I'm very excited for the second one, but obviously Harry Potter, the ultimate escapist. Don't know why I did that arc there. The ultimate escapist comfort read you could get. It's literally magic. It's a different world. And it's, you know, kids who were like, good over evil, yay! So who doesn't like that? Who doesn't like Harry Potter? J.K. Rowling may be problematic with some of her opinions and things that she said about Harry Potter, but we're going to ignore that. Because Harry Potter, like, nothing can ruin that for me. I know there are problems, and if you really think about it, there are probably plot holes, but I still think the world building is second to none, and I love it. And then last, but not least, because this has been a long one, and I'm not sorry, is a graphic novel, which is The 100 Nights of Hero by Isabel Greenberg, who is my favourite, wait, I need to cough. See, coughing to the elbow, we're all good. Which is, my favourite graphic novelist. And this is, I think, this is the first one that I read by her, even though it's the second one. And it's kind of like a queer retelling of the 1000 Arabian Nights. Or was it 1001 Arabian Nights? I don't remember, or Tales. Anyway, it's 2 women who are in love, but one of them is meant to marry a king, and so to stop her getting married, the other one has to tell stories. And it's just a lot about the power of stories and how it can not just hold people's attention, but just like transport people, and also like cement love and be an expression of love and commitment. And again, like her art style is beautiful. She has this like particular colour palette, and I just think it's amazing. And I really whizzed through it. I thought it was just so original, and how she updated it. I loved it so much. Always love a queer retelling. Always good. And again, this is heavy. I'm going to put that down. But I'm sure there are lots of books I could have picked on this list, but I'm just glad that we have books. I know that I am in an incredibly... sorry, I'm still talking too fast. I'm in an incredibly privileged position to have so many books to read, and it's one of those times where I'm really glad that I have a huge TBR and that I've got 200 unread books on my list, because now's the time, you know. It's it's perfect. But let me know what your comfort reads are, or if you enjoy any of these books too and you find them comforting. So yeah, I hope that this brought you a spark of joy, even though it was real scatty. We'll ignore that. And I will see you soon for more bookish shenanigans. Bye!